Hello, welcome to my presentation on the burning frozen planet. Number one, basic world building. So, does it have more than one sun or moon, ring, constellation, or stars? It does not. It does not have a moon, but it does have one sun, and the sun is the one it rotates around. It wrote. It's for when it orbiting around the sun is a lot slower than how our world works. For us, our planet rotates around our sun for over one complete rotation is a year, whereas this one is one whole decade. There are no rings around this planet. There are constellations that you can see from the planet, meaning that there are stars. Can magic run out? Is it infinite? The magic, it all depends on how you would say run out or is it infinite, because it runs out depending on how tired you are. So if your body is exhausted, you cannot get up or move because you're out of energy to walk or just move your body at all, then your magic will run out. Your magic will know my user is tired, so he cannot longer use this magic. It is infinite though, because the magic is always there. You just need the energy to use it. So, for example, if you use the magic and then you've been using the magic all day, or not all day, but for quite a long time, and your body's just tired where it just lays down and doesn't move, the magic will go away. Because your body is physically unable to move, and your stamina is basically at its lowest point, so you cannot use the magic. How does magic work in your world? Are there magical creatures? Magic works by you summoning the weapons using your magic, or healing people as well. So the magic weapons you can summon would be a sword and a shield. There are no magical creatures unless you consider the animals that are on the planet that have adapted to the environment, where like the frozen side and the cold side. So you see a tiger might look a bit burnt, but still like walking around because it's adapted to the environment for the hot side. Or it's like a tiger on the cold side will have more fur maybe, and its like teeth will probably be its skin will be probably all blue because of how cold it is. 2. Magic and magic users. Is magic a profession, art, or job? Magic this magic can be considered an art, and it is a job. The magic is used to fend off any enemies, and the fighting style is with sword fighting and using a shield as well for defense. If you see how majestic they look when they're swinging that sword, yeah, you can consider that art. But it's mostly used for a job, for fighting out the enemies if you were to encounter one. Can magic or spells be abused? How and does this happen often? Since the magic is mostly used to benefit you and your people, there's not really any way you would abuse it unless you would use the magic and use it against your people. So, for example, you have the magic from the light core, and so does someone else. So you both have the ability to summon a weapon. Now, if you used it against it, that would be a sign of betrayal. It does not happen often because people who obtain this magic are always like agreeing with each other, alongside with each other. They would never use their magic to harm someone else on their side. Maybe to intimidate someone, or to or as a paladin would be the law enforcement saying, please don't do that. Or if they have to get violent, they will, but they won't draw their sword. They will never use their sword on their own people. What status does magician have in society? Are they seen as lesser people or nobles? The magicians, aka the archbishop, is not seen as lesser people. They are considered the highest class of that side of the planet, since they are basically the person who determines who becomes the a paladin who will enforce the law for that side of the planet, and they are also the protector. They are the last line. They're the last call for um, any emergency of where the paladins can't handle it. They will call the archbishop in, or if they're leading a huge attack, like the whole side of the planet is attacking the other side of the planet, then archbishop will lead the charge. So the other ranks would be like a paladin. Those are your law enforcers. People, the common folk look up to them, but the archbishop looks down. The common folk looks up to the paladins, whereas the archbishop looks down to them, because the archbishops are seen as the higher ups, or the paladin are like the middle class. Now the common folk, those are the lowest class. They are seen as lesser people because they are the ones who just go about their business, whereas the paladins are actual ones who are protecting them. Physical and historical. Geographically, where will the story take place? How much ground will the story cover? The story will take place either on one side or the other side of the planet. Paladin, who start as a common folk, who starts as someone who starts off as a common folk, eventually making their way up to a paladin, and then Archbishop sees that person as a worthy successor, where they will go around their side of the planet, learn their side and about the other side if they can, and then gain as much knowledge as they can, and eventually return to the Archbishop. Archbishop will determine if they're ready or not, and then they will make them their successor, they will give them the rank of Archbishop, and the Archbishop will step down. How much ground will this cover? Basically, the whole side, majority of the side of the planet that each core is on. What are the most striking features of the landscape, climate, animals, etc. in this area? The most striking features, what I would say, would be not the climate, because it's the hot and cold, and the landscape showing one side is more dark and cold, and the other side is more volcanic and burning. The most thing, the striking feature would be the animals, because their way they look and their skin. You would still notice that if you look at a tiger on one side and the other side, you will not the only difference you know probably by their color of their skin, color of their fur, how much fur they all have. But you can deal both. Each side would say that's a tiger. That's what tiger looks like. The hot side would say that's a tiger, but it has less fur, maybe some burn marks and everywhere on that part, or their paws will be on fire, or they'll be burnt as well. Whereas the other side, the tiger might have more fur, or their fangs or their teeth might be made of ice, and their skin might be all blue. Their body has learned to adapt to the environment, and then that changes their appearance as well. Where did civilization begin? What directions did it spread? Civilization began at the points where the cores are at, so basically on the complete opposite side of the planet. So where the highest point of where that meets the sun, that's where the light core is at, and the highest point that meets the dark side of the planet, that is where the dark core is at. And eventually civilization started around the core area, and it spread out, and it reached all the way to near where the border between the hot and cold meet. People and customs. How many people are there in this country? How does this compare with World Cup population? What is considered a small town, large town, city in terms of number of people? Each side has over 5 billion people. The planet is pretty big, because whereas our world, we have near 5 billion people around the whole planet. So this side is actually pretty big. This planet is pretty big. A small town would have near probably 500,000 would be considered small, whereas a big city would have 1 million or more. What are the rites of passage in this culture? Are they formalized rituals, such as being dubbed a knight, or are they informal? Are they different for men and women, nobility and peasants? doesn't really matter for going from common folk to a paladin. Doesn't really matter because if you're a peasant or not, if you're willing to put up with the work to learn to become a paladin, they will push you towards it because more paladins means more protection for their side of the planet, and men or women. So the Big Dim Planet is constantly pushing to become a paladin. People will respect them and worship them a lot more than how common folk will, because they have a sense of authority, and not only they have powerful weapons that they at their disposal. So you can be dubbed a knight, a paladin. You can become a paladin, but you must go through a course of where studying about the rules of the land, how the magic works, what are the responsibilities, and then making sure you're willing to handle all those responsibilities. And so, which geographical areas are the most heavily populated? Least are certain areas or terrains more popular with certain races than with others? Why? Each side of the planet has their own race. So the left side, the cold planet, has their race. Everyone's are considered one race. The other side has their race. Those considered one race. So the most populated sides of the planet would be closer towards the core, and the these medium amount of population, like high population. So high population towards the core, medium populations near the border to protect it, low populations in between the border and the center. And that goes for both sides of the planet. Social organizations. Are there magical weapons? Can magic be used in warfare? How are spells used in warfare? Are they fast enough? So the magic weapon, they're not really magic weapons where they have magic enchantments. They are just used the weapons are summoned through magic. So for this weapon is stronger than what a normal training sword would be. So we'll call it the holy sword. The holy sword would hit a regular sword. A metal sword would break. So, and the magic is mostly used in warfare because your magic is used to summon a shield and a sword, and to heal people as well. So, are spells used in warfare? Yes, the healing spells are used in warfare. Are they fast enough? A lot faster than what your the healing process of a normal body would. So if you got like a cut on your leg, the cut will heal a lot faster if you use the magic. But if you lost a limb, you're not you heal the wound from where you got cut, but you won't not be able to grow that limb back using the magic. But personal weapons are available to anyone who can afford them. Are some weapons only used by certain people? Are some weapons banned? No weapons are banned. Personal weapons are available to anyone who can afford them. Those weapons would be like a wooden sword or a metal sword to train with. Are some weapons only used by certain people? Yes, the Holy Sword and the Holy Shield are only used by paladins and the Archbishop. They have access to the magic, which allows them to summon these weapons. Is magic used to gather intelligence or fight battles? How can magic be defended against? So, if you're a paladin and you have these powers to summon these weapons, you can use this as a way to intimidate people to gather intelligence, or you can use your sword and shield to fight your battles. They are used for combat, and how magic can be defended against, that's all determined on the person's stamina. So if you are very tired out, you will not, where your body can't move, then the magic would know like you can't, your stamina is too low, and you don't have the energy to use this to summon the weapon. So if you can get tired out your opponent, if your opponent is tired out before you, or you can make your opponent tired, stamina drop faster than yours, or hit 0 before yours does, then you will have advantage on that. Number 6, commerce, trade, and public life. Which groups of people are allies, trades, or are rivals? Are there groups that harbor old resentments from the past? Both sides are rivals. They are constantly at each other because one is hot, one is cold. They will never be able to get along in peace because one side will, if the cold go on the hot side, they will burn. If the hot go on the cold side, they will freeze. And both want to control the whole planet, but they don't know that if they do try, it's gonna fail because the cold won't survive the hot won't survive the cold, and the planet has no rotation, so there's no balance. Are there groups that harbor old resentments from the past? The group will be considered the whole side of the planet, so the whole side where it's all hot, whole side all cold. Those group have been constantly fighting to take over the planet, but they can't because they can only do their best on each side of the planet, on their side of the planet, because they had the advantage on their side. What level is medicine at? Who are the healers? Do you need talent to heal, or do you train? Who trains people who work in the healing field? Healers, herbalists, apothecaries, surgeons, etc. So, what level is medicine at? It's pretty high since you can heal a wound pretty quick with the healing magic. Who are the healers? The healers are the paladins and the archbishop. Do you need talent to heal or train? Yes, you do. Like a paladin will go through a training course of learning how the magic works. That involves using the sword and shield, and the healing magic as well. Once they get an idea how it works and study how the body is, so they know how they don't really study how the body is like how muscle works, because the healing magic will just repair any damaged tissue. So who trains these people who are going to be using the magic to heal? Well, basically any paladin recruits coming up, any recruits becoming a paladin or the archbishop, if he's willing or she's willing, they would teach new recruits how the magic work, and once they're worthy enough to learn to obtain the magic, once they get the magic, the paladin will show them how the magic works, and they will be able to use the magic hands-on. How do people find out what is happening in the world? Through news, newspaper, mail, or carrier pigeons. They find out through letters. So if you want to send a message to someone, you would write them a letter, and then a paladin will send it to you. Well, you would give it to a paladin. The paladin will deliver your message to that person. But whereas like simple gossip or news or anything big going on, that word will travel far. That news will travel pretty quick. Considering that there are a lot of people on one side of the planet, big news about like something the archbishop is talking about, if that started on one side, it'll probably make it to the other side in a week or two. So you want like a private message, like a letter, going from one side of the other planet, or one side of the planet to the other. You will have a paladin that will go on a horse that will deliver your message, basically as a messenger. And that is my presentation on the burning frozen planet. Thank you very much.